Today, I'm practicing drawing facial expressions. Feel free to sit back and relax or grab a pencil and follow along. For our first drawing, we're gonna do Hermione Granger at the Yule Ball. I love her little smirk in this one, so I'm really hoping I can capture it, at least that. I'm not going for the exact replica of them because I'm trying to hope to keep these pretty quick in terms of sketches. But I am trying to convey at least a little semblance of the character themselves. So first I'm going to start off with the mouth since her smirk is pretty prominent and I really want to make sure I can get that right. You can see her top lip just kind of tilts to one side and then we get a little bit on the corners here of dark areas. And we're nice and connected there. Then we're going to draw the Cupid's bow and her nose just above. I have found that is one of the more important tips in terms of making sure a character looks how they should is the distance between their nose and their mouth. I think that's a really easy mistake to make as a beginner is leaving too much space between those two. And trust me, I have done that myself quite often. Then I'm like, oh, why does this character not look how I want them to look? And that's usually the problem. So here to match the corners of the nose, I'm just gonna draw this up and start with the eyes. And a nice almond shape. And she is looking to the side, so I do want to pay attention to how her eyeball is positioned. Okay, before we get too carried away, let's start in the other eye. And one thing I really try to pay attention to is where the eyeball itself is. I think that's looking okay. I might actually bring it in just a scotch closer. And then this as well. Now I'm just darkening up that lash line, and normally I would save this bit for last, but since these are pretty quick sketches, I am just gonna go ahead and work on the area that I'm at. Okay. We have just a little bit of the eye socket here, and then just a bit of shading around the nose area. And around the outside of the eye, I am gonna give her a little bit of lashes, a little bit of shading on the nose, and now for the brows. I always start off pretty light and then make them heavier. Just realized I didn't even do mascara on this eye. Okay, and then I'm just gonna add the hairs in. As I'm darkening up that eyebrow. Okay. Now I'm gonna add a little bit of shadow to the lips and pay attention that the highlight is right on this bottom lip line. Okay, let's erase the guiding lines. Okay, and her ear is just above the top of her eyebrow, and it is covered by her hair. I'm gonna make these lines very, very light because it's easy for a person to look quite old if the smile lines are the values are not proportional. Okay, let's add just a little bit for the hair. She does have quite the look. Man, that is quite a bit of volume at the top of her hair, but that is okay. Let's make sure we do get the shape of her face at least somewhat correct. All right, now I'm just gonna darken up her eyes, so she does have really pretty brown eyes. Okay, now let's finish up with some last little bits of shading, then we're gonna call it. I'm mostly doing these final touch-ups because I made this part quite a bit darker and I did not touch the rest of her, so the values do need to match in order for it to look a little bit more reasonable. Oh yeah, forgot her other ear. Got the remnants, sorry, not the remnants. We got a little hint of the other ear peeking through. Let's add just a skosh more volume to that hair. All right, on to the next. This next portrait is of Thor from the Wheel of Time. Here I'm really trying to make sure I get the right turn of the head to make sure that his face is proportional and is actually turned how it should be. Okay. I'm actually going to start off with adding the outside of the face shape to his hair, or sorry, to his head. Now I'm going to move in and add the rest. You can already tell that feels a lot more of a masculine shape than this one here, although this one is our warm-up. I'm not super proud of it, but it is what it is. Let's get our basic shapes in. Let's make sure we get the curvature of the mouth correct. So one thing I'm always looking for when I have these 3/4 profile faces is their nose kind of hitting the outside of their silhouette, or is the nose well within the bounds of their face? His eyebrow, I think is about there. Now I'm just gonna erase my guiding lines. This side of his face is much closer to us than his other side. So we gotta make sure that his eye does look a little bit larger and that the shape is correct. Let's see, is that too far up? I am gonna add a little bit more fluff to the brows since I always enjoy that. Okay, now for the next eye. This eye is always tricky. At first glance, you're like, oh yeah, that's an easy expression. He's just, you know, looking at 3/4 profile. But then once you actually get into the nitty-gritty, it becomes a little bit more tricky. All right, let's follow up on the curvature of his face. Just adding a little bit more shadows. Okay, now for the hair. Going with a really light pencil, kind of making these little shoopy lines. Official word for it, yes. We have a little bit of the hair coming around the side as well. Now I'm just following how the little shoopies look in terms of what direction they're going in. All right, let's not forget the ears. Again, don't have to be super scientific here, just kind of making sure I get a resemblance of the ear shape. And then adding a little bit of shading underneath his neck. Now just a little bit of shadows on the cheekbones and on the jaw. Again, if I was really trying to spend a lot of time here, I would be adding a lot more shadows, maybe a little bit more of the furrow in this brow here, just to add a little bit more intensity to the gaze. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our Dragon Reborn. All right, this next one is Simon Basset from Bridgerton. I'm using the 2-circle method for this one since, again, we're getting kind of 3/4 view of his head. And I want to make sure that I get like a 3D-ness to the face. And we actually can't see his jawline, so I'm just gonna kind of extrapolate into what I think it is. We're about there. Again, the face comes in around the eye area, and then he's really exaggerating his forehead here, so it kind of comes out around the eye socket. and out. Okay, once again, I'm gonna start with the mouth. We only have a partial view of his mouth, so got to take that into account. A very defined Cupid's bow. His mouth arches up just slightly. I think I'm gonna bring this lip up. He just has a highlight right on the tip of his nose. And the rest of it is pretty heavily shadowed. It looks weird right now. I fully acknowledge that. And the corner of his eye is actually a little bit hidden by the bridge of his nose. So I want to make sure I capture that. Again, a little bit of the highlight. Sorry, Simon, if you see this while this is still mid-progress. His eyes are a little bit tilted, so I need to account for that. All right. Got a little bit more of the eyeball there. See, it's coming together slowly. I'm just adding a little bit more shading to the nose area to kind of take it out a little bit and give him a little bit more space in his face. Haha. Okay, now we have some very thick eyebrows. Okay, now we're gonna add the lines for the forehead. Trying to be pretty light with them. But also remember to erase my guiding lines. So I'm gonna come in here and then start with the facial hair. See, I think I need to give him a little bit more space between the nose and the lip. So I'm gonna bring that down just a little bit. And again, more facial hair. He has this little jacket wrapping around the back of his head. Ear just above the brow. Have this muscle here. And then we have the back of his hair. And to indicate that it's curly, I'm just gonna add some squigglies. Again, not a very scientific portrait, but we're just practicing our expressions. I will channel my inner Bob Ross and try to have fun. Not that I'm not having fun, I am. But sometimes with these super quick portraits, they don't look exactly how you want them to look. And that is a-okay. Because each drawing is just a vehicle to get better at your next one. Let's add a little bit more like furrow between his brows, because I think instead of just looking old, he's supposed to be looking doubtful. Oh wow, his eyes are like not very similar. I think our dear boy Simon really needs some extra shading. Okay, let's make sure we really add the depth underneath his lip. And then bring this out just a little bit. And the one thing with facial hair is that sometimes it's hard to let your viewers know if you're actually drawing facial hair or if you're just shading. So, especially for like a quick sketch like this. Okay, I'm not in love with it, but I think we're gonna call it here and move on to the last one. I am excited for this last one. This is the one, the only, Blair Waldorf from Gossip Girl, and I love her expression. I've never actually drawn this particular expression before, so let's see how it goes. I am trying to be generally quick about these. Simon took a little bit longer. You can kind of tell based on how much shading I've been doing on each one, but it is hard to do it quickly. But that also helps you kind of get in the flow and get faster at your art too. because and then you're worried less about perfectionism, and it kind of helps just kind of just be like, just kind of helps get into doing mode versus just, oh, I don't know what to do, I don't know exactly how to make this, versus here you kind of just do it and hope for the best. Like, I'm not super proud of these. I think they're just okay. But I'm just practicing, you know? That's all I'm asking for, just to get better by practicing. All right. This is so scowly. I love it. So hopefully you guys can hear the little scratching noises as well. I tried to mic up my pencil. Not my pencil, just my sketching area. So you can clearly tell how much better I am after I've warmed up. So that's also another one of my tips. If you are starting to draw, don't expect perfection on your first try, especially if it's your first drawing of the day. Man, this 2000 style makeup is very interesting. I think my lead is about to break. I do feel like my lines aren't super clean right now, but that's okay. Start with the eyeball here and fill in the eye around it. Oh my gosh, she looks like that talking orange meme at this point. You guys know what I'm talking about? This is probably from like very early internet days. Or the annoying orange thing. Again, her eyes are very dark, so it's kind of hard to tell where her pupil and her irises start and end. Especially in the reference photo, but I generally know that the iris is in the middle of one's eye. So that's me using my extra knowledge there. All right, now for the eyebrows, most important part. Oh, I forgot mascara on this eye. This really does look like that annoying orange meme. Oh, wow. No, no. Nope, much more of her face is facing us, so that means I need to have more space. Otherwise, the face on the drawing will look way too squished. Wow, she even has like the little zigzag part down the middle. I love it. Now let's add a little bit more shadows to this one. Again, I always forget about the guiding lines. I'm just darkening up her irises. Because as you can tell, eye color really does make a big impact. Adding a couple finishing touches here. Now normally I don't really like to make this bottom lash line quite so dark, but she does have very 90s eyeliner. So I am gonna go ahead and darken that up. Now I feel like I have to darken up Hermione and Rand as well, since I've gotten a little bit more shading done for these guys. There we go. Bringing the eyebrow down really does just give her a little bit more of that, what the heck are you talking about look. And almost done here. Just gonna add a little bit of color to her hair. Okie dokie. I'm gonna add just a couple more shadings here and there just to make sure that the values match all of them on the same page. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know which one was your favorite, and please tag me if you choose to recreate any of these sketches. I would love, love, love to see them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.